Welcome everybody, my name is Yuval Ron. I'm glad to have you with us for this celebration of a new album called Sacred Spiral. And this new album was envisioned by my colleague Dr. Richard Gold, who is with us. And we are also fortunate to have with us the soloist, the incredible singer and a friend named Uyanga Bold, who is with us. And she sang all the melodies that I composed for this album. And really, this album is really featuring her soul, her nuances of voice. I believe her ancestry even is coming through. And we're going to be talking with Uyanga about this coming very soon. We also have with us, and this is a rare delight, to have the designer, the artist who created the amazing album cover, and she's with us too to celebrate and to tell us how she created that cover image. With us is Yael Pardes. I'm glad that you are with us. And let's begin with 1 minute album trailer that introduces the album. Sacred Spiral is a new album featuring one of my favorite singers in the whole entire world. Her name is Uyanga Bold. And she brought incredible sense of spirituality and beautiful nuanced performances to each one of my melodies and elevated it to a whole new run. So this is the 1 minute little taste of the album. There are only 2 musical excerpts from the whole album in this 1 minute little excerpt. And so I would like to play for you excerpts from all the 7 tracks of the album, so you get a sense of this music before we celebrate it and in conversation with my colleagues. The first track, called Ethereal Voyage. What you hear is the voice of Uyanga together with glass harmonica performed by Brian Engel, the master glass harmonica player. It's incredible textures of the glass harmonica and the voice of Uyanga. And it's amazing what Uyanga is doing with her voice. Part of it is breathing, singing through breath. Some of the things sound like sound effects. Some of what she's doing sounds like the wind. It's hard to know where is the voice and where is the wind and what came from what instrument. It's all weaved together in this mysterious ethereal texture. So this is the flavor of the opening track. And then we have the second track, where it's a track called Voice of Freedom. This track features Andrew Carney, the great Andrew Carney on jazz trumpet. He actually plays an instrument called flugelhorn, which is a low trumpet. And listen to Uyanga singing a completely different vocal technique. This sound that she brings in much more relates to R&B, to rhythm and soul, to rhythm and blues. It's soul. It's very earthy, very bluesy. And later in the track, it becomes a cry. So it's a very, very bluesy, jazzy track, and it's all about expression. It's about freeing your voice. And from there we go to the third track, which is called Mind Vision, Invocation, featuring James Hood on the pan drum. It's kind of like a steel drum that you hear right now, but played with the hands. And now Uyanga is singing in a completely different style. It's much more African related. It's shamanic. And it's about invoking mind vision, imagination, intuition, and further in the track, we're invoking joy and ecstatic joy. So later in the track, we get into these grooves and rhythms. And Uyanga sings 4 or 5 different vocal parts there, while James Hood is playing 4 or 5 different tracks of the drum, the hang drum. And it's a great celebration. And then the fourth track introduces a very different texture and a different world, and it's called Mysteries of the Heart. This track number 4, Mysteries of the Heart, features the great musician Shai Ben-Tzur from Israel, who spent most of his career in India, and he's a master of the bansuri, wooden flute, and classical Indian music. He's also a vocalist, and we hear him on this track singing along with Uyanga. And the nature of this track it's a very longing, pining, loving track that explores all the different phenomena of love, including the pain, including the separation, including the journey towards unity, the longing. And it has a Sufi influences, it has classical Indian influences. And for some of the reviewers, this is the heart of the record, This is the heart of the album, track number 4. It's right in the middle of the 7 tracks. Let me bring, this is Shai Ben-Sur singing. And Uyanga is answering. And from that track, we go to track number 5, which is called Water of Forgiveness. And we stay with the inspiration of India as we introduce a great master musician on sitar. The master sitar player on this track is Pandit Nayan Ghosh from Mumbai, India. He's one of the greatest masters of sitar living today in the world. This track is kind of washing water that are of forgiveness, that are washing all the pain and the longing that we experienced in the previous track of Mysteries of the Heart. There's more of a flow and less struggle in this track. Listen to Uyanga singing the theme. And from Water of Forgiveness, we go to the 6th and one before the last track. And this track features the great cellist Dennis Karmazin on cello. He's the principal cellist of the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra and one of the greatest cellists in Hollywood who played on all the John Williams movies of Schindler's List and Star Wars and every movie that you can think of, he's on it. His name is Dennis Karmazin, and he plays the cello here, and Uyanga sing along this theme that I wrote. It's kind of a duet for voice and cello. It's a very classical, Western classical style, and it's called Darkness into Light. Later in the track, we go to the higher range. Uyanga joins the cello in the upper range. And so this very somber but hopeful track leads us to the last track. And this track features master gong player Kenneth Jove and the didgeridoo player Andy W, I think. His last name escaped me, but I always call him Andy Didge. He plays didgeridoo here. Now, this track will be very hard for you to hear through computer speakers or cell phone speakers because it has enormous amount of low frequencies that comes from the gongs. And so I would recommend hearing it on a good stereo system or very good headphones. Uyanga sings a very shamanic style of voice chanting here, and the track is called Deep Earth Chant. This is the human voice. Can you believe it? This is a singer named Uyanga Bold who is vocalizing these melodies. This whole album had only one singer, only one human being that sang on this album. And I'm just amazed myself. Although I worked on this album for more than 2 years. I worked on this album for 3 years. The last 3 years. We started it before COVID. 3 years in the making. And I'm just listening to those excerpts of the 7 tracks, and I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed that there's one human being that sang all this material, all these melodies, all these sounds, all these emotions. It's just an incredible showcase. So in due time, we will get to interview Uyanga Bold, who is with us. But before that, I just wanted to invite the great person who made this whole possible, because Uyanga and I would never have done this album if Dr. Richard Gold didn't envision it. He envisioned it. He came to me and said, why don't you... No, he said it like this. He said, do you think you can have Uyanga sing over all these chakra music that you composed? And I thought, that's interesting. At that point, I already worked with Uyanga on several projects, on some film scores that I composed, and we've done some concerts together with my ensemble. So I worked with her, but this was an interesting idea to do a whole album with Uyanga, with different colors, addressing different energies. And Dr. Richard Gold came with this idea and supported it. And so I want to invite Dr. Gold to tell us a little bit about where this vision came and what do you think this music could be used for? How could people benefit from this music?
Thank you so much, Yuval. That was an amazing presentation. From the time Yuval and I came together in a creative partnership with Metta Mindfulness Music, our mission was to use modern neuroscience and ancient wisdom traditions to create sounds that facilitated healing and meditation. Also, then, Yuval told me maybe about 5 or 6 years ago that he had met an amazing singer who we've all gotten to meet here now. And I immediately Googled Uyanga, and I was just stunned by the range of what she does, her presence, her aura, the depth of her spirit. Now, in these ancient wisdom traditions, there's no mind-body split that we have in Western culture. And if, for myself, just listening to this, and I think, Yael, I could tell you going through the same thing, I went through a whole range of emotions, even though I've heard all these tracks many, many times. And so after Yuval introduced me to Uyanga, we then asked her to join us in our project we did on Buddhist wisdom tradition called The Four Divine States of Mind. And her track on that is just astounding. I listen to it almost every day here a number of years later.
The track called Equanimity. If people
Equanimity.
Equanimity.
Subsequently, Yuval and I were invited to present to an international acupuncture Chinese medicine conference on sound healing. And I asked the president of the organization, could we please bring Uyanga to nourish our acupuncture Chinese medicine community? And he did. And to perform on the same stage with Uyanga was just a blessing of a lifetime. And I could see how she mesmerized the crowd. It was just remarkable. And like with our album here, her voice is an instrument. We never wanted her to sing words. We didn't want to engage the narrative mind to try to understand the poetry of what she was saying. We wanted it to be an immediate, visceral, emotional experience. And then, quite frankly, the idea to do this whole album was like a lightning bolt. There was no rational objective, no business plan, just how we could invoke a whole gamut of emotions and styles and the diversity of instruments. And this became an international project. We recorded in Mumbai, India. We didn't have to travel there. Luckily, electronic allows us, the internet allows us we work with engineers in these other countries. We worked in Rajasthan in India, and Mumbai, and Tel Aviv in Israel, and then in Atlanta also here in the States. And this whole project just kept evolving to something way beyond me and way beyond my dream even. And the result of it is just, I feel it's a blessing to the world. And having Uyanga work with us at this stage of career was just remarkable. I'm eternally grateful to her. My recommendation about how to listen to this, it works as a whole album, absolutely. But I think after listeners will listen to it little by little, they'll recognize certain pieces evoke them in such different ways that they'll begin to use it almost like a music medicine. That if they feel like they're constricted in their heart, they're going to play Mysteries of the Heart. If they feel like there's something they need to say, they'll do the vocal one, the Voice of Freedom. So really, I recommend it as a whole listening experience, but also as a music medicine, and a way of connecting to deep spirituality, deep earth chant. You're going to go to the garden after working on that. You're going to want to get your hands in the dirt and pick beets out of your garden or something like that. I need to praise Yuval because none of this can happen without his creativity and his vision and his connection to musicians. And then when Yuval brought Yael in to do the album cover, oh my gosh, it was like a icing on the cake, the star on the top of the tree. It brought this whole thing to another level. So thank you all for joining us today, and thank you for Yuval for everything, and Uyanga and Yael, really.
Thank you, Rick. That's wonderful. It's what a great way to celebrate this effort that we are. What a team. So thank you. I'd like to introduce Uyanga and to give her the floor. And Uyanga, we are all grateful for all the efforts that you made. I wanted to say to the audience that we worked on it for more than 2 years. And when we started it, it was before COVID. And so the first track, just the first track, you came to my studio and we recorded it in my studio. But then COVID hit, and the rest of the album was recorded in your studio remotely. And I know it was challenging. I know it was rich, but segmented, because we've done 7 tracks over 2.5 years. So it was very segmented. And I'm wondering, what was the experience for you? What is most memorable for you? What is the track that touched your heart the most? What is the track that was the most challenging for you to plug in or to find? How was the experience for you?
Thank you for inviting me to join this beautiful endeavor of exploring the chakras through music, and especially through living instruments, right? This is not just like in the box you play with a MIDI keyboard sounds that are in the computer. These are real living human beings. For example, the cello, it's a lifetime of study, right? And bringing all of that into this album, I believe, really enriches the experience of journeying through the chakras, right? And so I really enjoyed embarking on this journey with my cohorts here, incredible creative forces. And each one of these pieces is a vibratory space of its own. So I enjoyed being and tuning myself into these spaces within myself, as within and without. And I just love this idea of having one person sing the whole album, because this is the human experience. We have all these capabilities and capacities within us, right? And I love that the album begins with Ethereal Voyage and ends with Deep Earth Chant, because it's really encompassing the human journey, right, where we come from and where we return, right? That this soul and the earth and the body, and in between we have this human experience, how we speak, how we love, how we envision, how we forgive, how we move from darkness into light, from ignorance to understanding, right? And then it's really these archetypal journeys that we embarked upon. And so to say which one speaks the most, perhaps as a singer I enjoyed Voice of Freedom, and because as an artist and as a singer I strive for freedom, in my expression, and that's a thread of that I like to pull through discipline, through devotion, dedication, and the one that what might have been most challenging was Deep Earth Chant, because there's a lot of frequencies in the gong, and it's a big field of frequencies, and I was wondering which direction to go, which scale, which mode to sort of inhabit, and the way through that was to connect with the didgeridoo as the tonic, more or less, and to really go into a shamanic trance state myself, right? And to not think about music theory so much and really embody a deep earth and allow, as Yuval said, my ancestors and the earth to sing through, right? Beyond mind. Yeah.
Thank you. This is wonderful to hear. I have a question for you that I think many people in the audience may have is when they hear and meet a singer like yourself, they are wondering immediately from track to track, they're wondering where did she study this? Where did she learn this? How did she learn this talent, that talent, this talent? So people are wondering, it's like, which school did she go to? Which teacher she had? You know, I want to go and study like this. And I heard one of my friends that heard the album said that they want to come and study with you. So I have one student that is on the way to call you because she just wants to learn voice with you. But could you just speak a little bit about your path as a singer? Who was the people or the cultures that influence your singing the most? What is the education that your voice went through?
Just touching and kissing the robes of my teachers, right? The hem of the robes of my teachers, so to speak. And I think it's a journey of translating the invisible sounds, the sacred sound through voice, and that call has led me to different teachers, to different places in the world, and I was fortunate enough to go, for example, live for a month with native people in the Amazon rainforest to study their chants as a ethnomusicological kind of a study. And I also, perhaps you heard, studied Western classical singing. This wonderful teacher from Juilliard, Rona Klinghoffer, and I've also studied and then continue Hindustani classical music with my teacher Data, and also I've studied just classical and traditional music from my country, from I've studied Balkan music a lot, and
Did you study Mongolian music in Mongolia?
that
were you now?
that came more from just growing up with the music in my ears, right? Hearing it, it just comes completely naturally beyond thought, and of course it's supplemented with techniques and pilgrimages, going to Mongolia and receiving some lessons from teachers there, but they don't teach by Zoom. For me, it's really finding the common language in all these different traditions, and if I listen deep enough, I find the commonalities between Japanese traditional singing to Mongolian singing to music from Ghana to music from Morocco, right? The chants and the Berber music to the blues to Qawwali music, and I happen to study Qawwali. Just try to follow the curiosity, follow the call, and I hope to just be able to touch as much of music as I can in this lifetime.
What would you credit the education that you had in Berklee College of Music in Boston? How the studies there contribute to your voice?
I see. Yes. Berklee is a melting pot, an international melting pot. So I had the opportunity to sort of rub shoulders with people from all over the world and from different musical traditions, and it expanded my horizons and possibilities to what's out there musically, culturally, and of course the facilities, the faculty, and just the atmosphere was elevated my consciousness with regards to music. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I would like to invite the viewers to see an interview that we did with you 2 years ago. And this video, it's a short interview, and I asked you one question, I believe. I asked you, what does your voice mean to you? And you spoke about that when we did an interview for the release of Four Divine States album, where you sang a beautiful track called Equanimity, which many people are enjoying around the world. Equanimity. You may look it up. Equanimity by Yuval Ron featuring Uyanga Bold. Here we go.
My voice is important to me personally because it is the only thing that makes sense to me. It's a knowing for me that's deeper than anything in my life. It's connecting to a part of me that's ancient, timeless, beyond my life. It's connecting to my ancestors' ancestors, and all the lives that I've ever led, connected to the part of me that is reincarnating over and over. And also it's just getting out of the way of the divine flowing through me. So Osho said something to the effect of, when the singer disappears and the song remains, then it's meditation, then it's a taste of existence. So if I can make space within me for the divine to resonate, to just transmit and channel it without anything getting in the way, then that is truly the most blissful that one can be in this life. I think provides me with bliss and truth and beauty and all the good things in life.
And so this was the interview that we did 2 years ago, and it's so interesting to hear Uyanga speaks about her voice and her observations of the musical tracks. I appreciate, Uyanga, very much that you are here with us. Thank you for your contributions. I would like to introduce you now to Yael Pardes, and Yael is an old friend of mine, and we both started our career in theater in Israel. And I started my career when I was 19. I started composing music for theater shows in Tel Aviv, and I remember the name Yael Pardes. People were talking about Yael Pardes as, you know, one of the talented set designers for theater. But after 3 years in my theater career, where I composed music for theater in Israel, I left Israel and I went to Boston, to Berklee College of Music, to study, same school where Uyanga studied. And I've been working in the States and living here since 1985. And so I never gone back to the theater scene. But then in Los Angeles, I meet Yael Pardes, and she's doing set design for, you know, Hollywood movies and theater and LA and all over the world. And she works with Disney, and she works with all kinds of producers. And we became friends, but we never got to work together. But 3 years ago, about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Yael recommended a director to call me to write music for a play that she designed called Dig. And we finally got to be together in one production. We did the music, I did the music, Yael did the set for this play called Dig. And with Stacy Chaikin, who wrote and acted it. It's a very interesting play called Dig. And then I felt, you know, I felt more of a taste, and I just, I'm waiting for a project that I could send Yael, but I never thought. I always think about Yael, to get her to work on a movie or a theater play with me, and I never thought about Yael in connection with a cover design. Although she's an artist, she's a painter, she's a visual artist. So one day, not too long ago, several months ago, Yael was over at my house, and we were sitting in the patio having dinner with friends and my family, and we start talking about the album that I'm working on with Uyanga, and that I'm thinking about ideas for the cover, and Yael suddenly said. She had an idea about a shell or something, and she said, I could do it. And I looked at her and I said, really? You're going to be willing to do that? And I felt like, this is huge, if we can get Yael to contribute. And Yael did contribute. And I tell you, I worked on, I can show you right now on my wall in my studio how many cover designs there are. These are not all the albums that I've done. This is just selection, and you see all the covers. And I'm always involved with working with the designers on the cover because I love visual, but I'm not a visual artist. But I love working on visual designs with artists. And this design that Yael created is just breathtaking. It's just I just want to print it as posters. Actually, I just ordered two full-size posters, 36 by 36. I'm going to frame, and it's just so beautiful. So, Yael, thank you very much for contributing, and tell us, please, about your process. How do you work on a cover? How did you work on this cover? What was the process? Please.
Thank you. It was such an honor for me to be part of it because the music was absolutely divine. I was transported, and I think that I didn't do the album. The music did the album. Seriously. It happened to me when I designed several things. I do a lot of plays, I do theme parks, and many times I just put music on or I read the story and I let the play guide me. And I work from the kishke, the guts. I'm not thinking too much. I just let it happen. And so it was with this album. We got to talk about the various elements, what needed to be there. I'm going to share my screen and share the basic building blocks of this album, what we thought was going to be there. We knew that we wanted some kind of celestial constellation, whichever it was going to be. We were going to connect the music to the frequency of the celestial world. And somehow, I don't remember if it was Yuval or me, we connected the same kind of pattern to the shells, to those ancient shells that I forgot the name of them, but maybe Yuval, you can refresh my memory. Ammonite, I think it's called ammonite. They are made of stone, and they have the same pattern as the stars, as the galaxies. And I said, that's really interesting. What about that golden rule, that particular line, that the Fibonacci golden rule, can it work for that? So I started to make all kinds of compositions, and I'm going to show you, first of all, the final one, so you know where we're heading. This is the final one that I think you're all familiar with. And the journey toward getting there was really quite lovely, because at the beginning, I said, okay, let's put them together. Let's see what we're getting there. How do they talk to each other, these two elements? This is so ethereal and large and in the sky, and this is so earthy and materialistic and ancient as well. How do they correspond with each other? And I started to put them together and started to do all kinds of compositions. So you can see one is more transparent, one is more simplified, just the line. And I came back to Yuval with these beginnings, and he said, I think we should have her portrait. And so I said, okay, let's look at her various images. He shared several images online with me, so that we could see what can her face tell us. So Uganda, I searched you online. I found all kinds of things that would be helpful, and I began to put them together in various combinations, including this one. This one was actually the least one that I thought was going to work, but turned out that it was the one that worked the best. But I'll show you the various trials. This is a different singer, but I wanted to see what that kind of portrait could do, where we would place it. This was another trial, not Uganda. This is Uganda from the hand, but placed differently. And none of them seemed to really work. But it was a good journey toward the exploration until one day, and I have to say, that's when I listened to the music, because all these other ones I did without the music. And when I listened to the music, it was just blink. It just happened, I swear. And it happened to me several times in my career where I just let go and I let something flow, whether it's music or a play or words or a poem, and it does the work. And that was it. And all we needed to do was finesse a few elements, where to write the text. Is this font the right font? How do we light the hand better? There was very little else to do. It was just the right combination. And this is the final album. So
amazing. It's so beautiful, and it's so much expressed the album, because Uyanga is like with her hand
exactly.
generating the light, the golden light that becomes the spiral, and she's like the wizard that is, but she's not completely dominating. She's not in the center.
It's flowing with all these energies, combining past, ancient past, present.
Yes.
I was blown away myself by finding it.
All these elements together in perfect balance, and they're all merging into, you see, the body of Uyanga, her torso, is actually the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, the galaxy we live in, becoming Uyanga, and Uyanga is becoming the light becoming the shells. It's all one flow, and it's just incredible. And in a way, the album is like that. It's all one flow with all those elements. It's so rich and amazing. Amazing. Thank you for showing us your process. It was so interesting to see your the different images, the images that didn't make it to the final. It makes it so interesting, isn't it?
There were many more, but it's showing. I always do a lot of research before any project, and the images sometimes tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Wonderful. So, my friends, this is concluding our presentation, but we have few minutes left to entertain any questions. And I think this is an incredible opportunity for anybody who is watching now to participate in this and ask a question through writing a comment on the YouTube live stream. Just write a comment, and Zach, our production manager, will pick it up and ask us the question on your behalf. You can ask Uyanga, Yael, Dr. Gold, myself, any question about any of the aspects of this work. Zach, do you see any questions from the audience?
Yes. Jake wanted to know, what can this album be used for?
Okay, so there's a question from Jake about how would one use this music, And maybe we'll go around. Maybe Yael, do you want to go for it? How would you use this album?
I really chime in with what Richard said, that it has such a deep capacity to heal, calm the mind, and be a conduit of creativity. So anytime, anywhere, not when you drive, but even now when I listened again to those little previews that Yuval played, I felt like I was massaged by golden rays of light. And I usually don't talk like that, but it's a very powerful energy music.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Uyanga, would you like to recommend how and when people could benefit from this music best?
Dr. Gold said it beautifully, that it can be used as a music medicine. And for me, this is a timeless music medicine because of the natural instruments that comprise this music, which means that the sounds don't age. Sounds from the computer tend to age, whereas the voice, the bansuri flute, the sitar, the cello, they don't age. They're timeless. So we can listen to this a whole lifetime, right? And it can really become a place where we can rest our busy minds in this modern society. So much information coming in. Sometimes perhaps it would be useful to have a place to tune into the inner silence, especially during the day, and if we put it just in headphones and take a moment to breathe, to clean our energy. And it's the oldest form of healing, really, through sound, right? And we put in so much thought and bringing sacredness and divinity and healing and beautiful frequencies that I think any person who listens to it will get to a state of okay, this is changing my perspective. Einstein said you can't fix a problem with the same consciousness that created it. So it's a wonderful way to naturally and easily change and alter our state of consciousness. And as Dr. Gold said, tune into, okay, today I might look into my voice, and this is for my want to connect to a higher source to help see a higher perspective from my affairs, for example, right? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say the whole album, listening to the whole album is like a journey, and it's a medicine for the whole body and the mind, and it's a big undertaking. It's 70 minutes of really attuning the whole body and the whole mind. And then within those 7 tracks, each track can work on different qualities and attributes and different purposes. So you have to spend time with each one of the tracks and figure out from the hints in the title and how you feel when to use each of the tracks for particular targets of energetic conditioning. So experiment with that. Try it in different ways. Try it when you do yoga. Try it before you go to sleep. Try to play in the background when you do creative work. See how it works for you. Thank you, Zach. Do we have any other questions? We have maybe time for one more last question, if there is any.
Yes. Joyce was asking, for the music, how much free rein is given to Uyanga to choose which notes to sing, and how much is decided by Yuval? Did Dr. Gold have any input regarding the healing elements of the vocals?
Okay, so the question was from Joyce, and she asked how much is indicated by the composer, how much of the music was notated by the composers, how much input there is for Uyanga, and how much input there is for Dr. Gold in regards to the musical notes. And I'll answer that. Joyce, it's an interesting question. It's a complex process, but just to simplify it, the short answer is Dr. Gold is in the beginning and the end of the process, the creative process. He came up with the idea and told me the idea, and then it was up to me to create it, and then to record it with Uyanga. And then whenever I would finish a track with Uyanga, I would send it to Dr. Gold, and he would kind of check it on himself and give me feedback and see, how does it work for him. And sometimes, for example, in deep chant, the deep chant, deep earth chant, I mixed Uyanga's voice very, very, very far in the background. And I wanted it to be a very textural thing with the gong, because the gongs are very challenging, and they are like a blanket of frequencies. Just, it's not clear notes. It's a cloud of very low notes. There's some high notes in the cloud, and the gongs are this blanket of sound, and her voice was sticking out of the gongs, and I found a way to make her voice really far, far away, coming from far away, and it kind of blended together with the gongs, but it was really just a texture. You hardly heard it. And I sent it to Dr. Gold, and Dr. Gold listened to it, and he said, I love what you created, but I feel we need to hear Uyanga a little bit more. I hardly can hear her. And I told him, that's the intentional, that we barely hear her on that one track. She's like an effect around the gongs. And he said, try, give it a try, do some experiment and see, maybe there's a compromise place where you could bring the voice a little higher and see. And I said, okay, let's experiment with that. So I brought Uyanga's back to a level that I felt comfortable with, and we listened to it again. Dr. Gold listened to it, and we found that was the perfect one, because we could hear Uyanga chanting, and when we can hear the gongs, and that was, Dr. Gold's contribution that really affected the music at that point. So sometimes there's things like that, and then the way I worked with Uyanga was I wrote in musical notes, each musical theme for each of the tracks. So she had the music, and then I would ask her to record it, and in few of the cases, I asked her to improvise an improvised solo in the middle, sometimes, not every time. There was some tracks where I told her, listen to the rhythms and create your own rhythms. But I just want rhythms. I don't want any melody, just vocal rhythms with the hung drum on the track called Mind Vision Invocations. So that was a place where it was not notated, and Uyanga created it by listening to the rhythms that were on the track, and the same thing with all the other musicians on the album, the bansuri, flute, the cello, the glass harmonica even. Every note that they played is written. I wrote all the notes and sent it to them, but then their great artistry is coloring those notes, making those notes sound good and have feeling and have emotions. And that's the big, big, big part of the performance and the contribution of the performers into this place. There's one exception, and that is the gong master. The gong master, Ken Jove, he's the only one who I didn't write a note. I brought him to my studio, and I was with him, and I told him, just give me a gong bath. And I told him that I need the note C, because the key of the track was C. So he used mostly his C gong, a little bit of his F gong, and I think there was one more gong that he used. So I gave him an environment, a tonal center, but then he played his gongs, and he created that gong bath for us for the 7th tracks. So that's the one exception. So you have to know which instruments to give what. You have to learn about the different instruments. One of the challenges was with the master sitar in India, because I sent him the notes, all the notes, and I sent it to India, and then I found out that he doesn't read any Western notes. They have their own musical note system, Indian classical note system, and so I was teaching him the music by heart. So I would sit at the piano in my studio, and I would play one melody, one little segment, and then he would play it on his sitar. Then I would play the next segment. He would play it on his sitar, and so I was teaching him the melody in the recording session, piece by piece, all by ear. I'm reading my notes. He's not reading my notes, but he's just hearing, and whatever he heard, he played on his sitar just perfectly. So all he needed is to hear it. So that was the one exception. So thank you for your question, Joyce. Thank you, everybody. If you'd like to send us emails with more questions, we'll be happy to email you back. You can write to Yuval at yuvalronmusic.com. There's more information about this album on Meta with double T, metamindfulnessmusic.com. And if you'd like to contact Uyanga Bold, she's got her website, uyangabold.com, I believe. Is that correct, Uyanga? uyangabold.com. And Yael Pardes, you probably can Google Yael Pardes and you'll find her site. And Dr. Richard Gold is with Meta Mindfulness Music, Meta with double T. And that's it, my friend. Thank you for being here. We're going to leave you with a video showing some of the reviews. We got just last week the first 4 reviews that came out. Beautiful, beautiful reviews. So enjoy it, enjoy the music, and be well. Blessings for all. We hope to see you in the next event. Be well.